Good evening. We'll call this meeting of the Johnson City Board of Commissioners to order for Thursday, June 1st, 2017. Please rise for the invocation given by Reverend Andrew Amadei, Director of Development at ETSU and a Rotarian, and then stay standing for the Pledge of Allegiance. Let us pray.
God of justice and mercy, thank you for the gift of life and the opportunity to serve the people of our city. We may desire to serve others. May we desire to serve others above serving ourselves. Help us to act with character and conviction. Help us to listen with understanding and goodwill. Help us to speak with charity and restraint. Give us a spirit of service. Remind us that we are stewards of your authority. Guide us to be the leaders your people need. Help us see the humanity and dignity of those who disagree with us, and to treat all persons, no matter how weak or poor, with the reverence your creation deserves. And finally, Father, renew us with the strength of your presence and the joy of helping to build a community worthy of the human person. We ask this as your sons and daughters, confident in your goodness and love. Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mayor, your first order of business, we'd like to ask you to add to the agenda consideration of a temporary occasion license with the American Cancer Society.
Very well. Have a
So moved.
motion second.
Second.
Any discussion? Ms. Jones, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin? Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes.
Next order of business is consideration of the minutes from the meeting held on May 18th.
Move approval.
Any discussion, corrections? Ms. Jones?
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes.
Next is consideration of a temporary occasion license for Family Promise of Greater Johnson City to sell beer at the Founders After 5 event on July the 16th. The appropriate reviews have been made, finding no disqualifying factors, and the recommendation is for approval.
Do we have any, is the applicant here?
Sure.
Sorry, we got sort of thrown off with our,
No worries.
our printed schedule there, so please state your name and address for the record, please.
My name is Allison Smith. I'm the Operations Director at Family Promise. My address,
Yes.
120 Hughes Street, Johnson City, 37601.
Have you read the rules and regulations
Yes.
regarding the sale of alcohol in Johnson City?
Yes,
Do you agree to abide by those rules?
we agree.
And do you have any questions?
No questions.
Any questions for the applicant?
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Ms. Jennings, call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes. And would you like to tell us about your family?
I didn't hear what you said.
Would you like to tell us about your family?
Our event is the Founders After 5 on June 16th. It is sponsored by Appalachian Community Federal Credit Union. It benefits our agency. We serve homeless families with children. So everyone is welcome to come out. Okay, thank you.
Your next order of business is consideration of a temporary occasion license for the American Cancer Society to sell beer. This is in association with the Founders After 5 event to be held at Founders Park. The appropriate reviews have been made, finding no disqualifying factors. The recommendation is for approval.
Is the applicant here tonight? Good evening.
Good
State your
evening.
name and address for the record, please.
I'm Doug Blair, and I'm here representing the American Cancer Society. I live in Carter County, but I'm here for the Cancer Society.
That's okay. You're welcome.
Thank you.
You're welcome here. Have you read the rules and regulations regarding the sale of beer in the city of Johnson City?
Actually, my daughter has not me, but yes.
No, the answer is yes.
Yes.
Don't
I
equivocate
don't-
on that
That's a
answer.
yes or no
Yeah.
question.
Yes.
Do you agree to abide by those rules?
Yes, sir.
And do you have any questions for us?
I do not.
Okay. Any questions for the applicant? Striking that one sentence from his statement. Do I have a motion?
Second.
Do I have a motion and a second? Any more discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Does he want to say anything about his?
I'm sorry, yes.
Your
Would you like-
next order of business is to consider making 2 appointments to the Washington County Johnson City Animal Control Board. As is pointed out in your packet, the revised bylaws of that agency provide for the appointment of up to 4 additional at-large members beyond the 5 standing positions that are prescribed, those being 2 representatives from Washington County, 2 from the city, and the president of the Washington County Humane Society. The recommended appointees are Mr. Art Powers and Dr. Sally McLean.
Mayor, both of these individuals are very highly regarded in the animal welfare community. They will be excellent additions to the Animal Control Center Board of Directors. So I would like to make a motion that we consider and approve both Mr. Art Powers and Dr. Sally McLean for membership on the Animal Control Center Board of Directors.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? And I've voiced my concern just that the legislative funding bodies no longer have a majority on this board. I will support these two. They're great applicants. They'll be great members. I think we need to be very mindful of that going forward as we are the funding bodies. So, any other comments? Ms. Jennings, call the roll.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes.
All right, your next order of business is a proclamation recognizing the 100th anniversary of the Rotary Club. We could ask those individuals to come forward, please.
It's a motley looking crew.
Good evening. Nice to see you. How are you doing?
You fellas
I
win.
know.
All right, this is one of those meetings where it's going to clear out quickly. After this, the problem is you want the actual document, you have to wait to the end. And everybody who's present during the presentation has to be present at the end for it. Well, I'm here to the end anyway, so, but.
He was until that comment.
That's right. I just want to take a second. I got a text from a friend today who was, and the Rotary Club was instrumental in the Boundless Playground. To kind of frame this up, I wanted to share this with you because I got it right before I walked into the meeting tonight, and I'm reading it. This is a quote. Dude, this water park at Rotary is legit. Not sure who's behind it, but thanks for doing this. So. Many of the people you see standing up here were responsible for that, and so thank you. And I don't think we've driven by that place that it's not packed. So proud to be a member of this club. Commissioner Van Brocklin has been a member. I'm not sure how my attendance has been recently, but I'm trying to work on that. But in celebration of your 100 years, I'll read this proclamation. Whereas on June 1st, 1917, the Johnson City Rotary obtained its charter from the International Association of Rotary Clubs and became Club number 298, led by its initial officers, President Bert Powder, Vice President J.W. Ring, Secretary Muncie Slack, and Treasurer W.F. Green. And I believe Skip Holden was around there. And whereas Rotary's history of service includes support of probation officers, truancy officers, night school, scholarships, youth ambassadors, Teacher of the Year awards, the Tweetsie Trail, Little League, baseball, Science Hill, High School, the Student Loan Fund, the Crippled Children's Hospital, the Children's Home, the Boys Home, Adopt a Spot, the Ronald McDonald House, and the Salvation Army. Wow. As well as relief efforts for veterans and children, both during World War I and World War II. And whereas in 1992, the Soviet Union crumbled and various Russian states were struggling with their independence, local Rotarians recognized a critical need for emergency food and medical relief for Russia, one of our sister cities, and organized what remains the world's largest known non-governmental relief by sending 17 40-foot containers of food and medical supplies for their citizens. And whereas a hallmark community activity began in 1927 where $40 a year was committed to care for Rotary Park, which developed into a multi-use facility, was officially dedicated in 1956, and shelters still in place today honoring members Robert London, Luke Gump, Alan Harris, F.L. Wallace, Raymond Long, and District Governor Bill Norton. And whereas for its centennial project, the Rotary Club recently celebrated the creation of an all-inclusive playground at Rotary Park that enables citizens of all ages and abilities. Commissioner Wise, Vice Mayor Brock, and I, and Commissioner Fowler tried some of those out.
There are photos.
I was there today, actually.
And we've definitely tested the durability. And abilities to enjoy free play on the grounds of the historic facility that generations of Johnson Cityans have enjoyed thanks to the dedication of Rotarians. Now therefore, I, David Smeaton, Mayor of the City of Johnson City, hereby congratulate the Rotary Club on its 100th anniversary. Our world and community is a better place to live, work, and play because of the unwavering service of the Rotary Club. And I'll give that to our President. Thank you, Mayor McAllister. How about him? And in the interest of time, no, we'll let everybody introduce yourself. If you're up here, you're introducing yourself.
I'm Skip Oldham. And what Skip did not say is, my name is Gary McAllister. I'm the current president of the Rotary Club of Johnson City. Skip did not say, Skip's past president has 52 years of perfect attendance.
Brett Jones. Past President Dick Ray.
Andromeda.
Past President Ernest Campbell.
I'm Steve Darden. I've been a member of the Rotary Club for about 25 years and have never flirted with perfect attendance. But Mayor Tomita and I have an interesting connection, mutual connection, you might say, with one of the original founders. Mr. James Edward Brading was one of the founders of the club in 1917, and David's wife, Jenny Brading Tomita, and my wife, Ann Spurrell Darden, are great-granddaughters of Mr. Brading.
I'm Greg Slip, past president.
I'm Scott Jeffress.
93rd President Mike Mefford.
Jacob Higginbotham.
Hadi Mahmoud Member.
Phil Pinsell.
We've never met you before. All right, thank you for everything you do, and yes.
We can't get everybody.
Squeeze in
I
for the
also
picture,
want
right?
you to turn around because you are a member.
Well, I was giving you my best side.
No,
All right, well,
if you could scoot down just a little bit and
Yeah.
we'll
Come behind
cut.
Steve here.
Yes, please.
Can y'all hold me? Can y'all hold me this way?
I think we've got to squash up just a little bit.
Everybody squeeze in.
Lions Club.
Thank you.
Good to see you always. Great seeing you.
Yeah, thank you. I'll find my way back up there, believe me. How are you? It's probably going to be equally as productive as what we'll do.
Your next order of business is the presentation of a proclamation recognizing Garden Week.
Yes. Cindy, if you'll just kind of step over a little bit, there we go. In the middle, so.
For the flowers you sent that brightened up our agenda meeting on Tuesday. And actually, it fared pretty well since then. I did take a couple out for my kids. But I left them in the back of the car. So they're not in very good shape today. But they're still pretty. So we're happy to present this proclamation. Whereas gardening promotes a healthy lifestyle that reduces stress and teaches the rewards from different diligent efforts. And whereas gardening adds nutrition, beauty, fragrance, and splendor to our lives through growing herbs, vegetables, foliage, and flowers. And whereas gardeners beautify our community, enhancing quality of life for our citizens. And whereas gardeners advocate the importance of all creatures, large and small, and their roles in a balanced, productive ecology. And whereas National Garden Week encourages members of garden clubs across the country and worldwide to serve others in their community where they reside and work. Now therefore I, David Tamina, Mayor of the City of Johnson City, in conjunction with national observance, do hereby proclaim June 4th through 11th Garden Week in Johnson City, and urge our community to acknowledge the importance of gardening and numerous contributions to gardening. Thank you very much. I'll send the microphone down the line. You tell me who you are and a couple of them.
Okay.
And I want one of the shirts.
I'm Cindy Hens, past president of Shady Oaks Garden Club, which is the only federated garden club in Johnson City. And currently I'm also the president of the entire Tennessee Federation of Garden Clubs. May Votaw, I'm a past president and very proud that we have the president of the state.
I'm Nancy Fishman, and I'm also a past president, and I just want to tell you a little bit about what we do in town. We support lots of civic programs. We donated funds to the city of Johnson City to plant some gardens in the city. We've also helped with the Jonesboro Arboretum. And we have, how we do that is we have a garden tour every other year. Our garden tour is coming up on June the 10th. It's from 11 to 3. And we have 7 gardens on the tour. And you can check our website, which is, Shady Oaks Garden Club TN? Anyway, search for Shady Oaks on Google. And you can find information about how to get tickets for it. This is the money that we use to support all of our programs. And in between years of the garden tours, we do a flower show. And we have won some national prizes for our gardens, for our flower show.
I'm Loretta Arbogast, past president.
I'm Ann Reed.
Diane Nelson.
Thank you very much. And,
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Whichever one you want.
Becky, I think they wanted a photo.
Did they want? I got one.
Just let her know.
Yeah, let her know.
Next order of business is to present a proclamation recognizing Run Day.
Yeah. Well, I have Commissioner Van Brockman come down here and do this because I'm going to present a proclamation for something I know nothing about. But I'll, so, whereas through voluntary action, individuals across the United States can join with one another on one unique day each year, the first Wednesday in June, to participate in National Running Day. And whereas this day for runners reaffirm their passion for running was also the perfect time for beginners to instigate a life-changing commitment to running. And whereas private and governmental agencies can promote the sport of running by making available resources of parks, trails, roadways, school grounds, and health facilities to support this cause. And whereas local running days can provide a special time to draw people together in appreciation of fitness and can also serve as an occasion to support local charities through fundraising efforts and awareness runs. Now therefore, I, David Tomita, Mayor of the City of Johnson City, in conjunction with the National Running Initiative, do hereby proclaim June 7th Running Day in Johnson City, Tennessee, and encourage all citizens to run for their health and well-being for the cause of their choosing and for fun. Thank you. So, we know who you are, but tell everybody else who you are.
Well, my name is Karen Hubbs, and I'm very blessed to have a business called Goose Chase, and we do a lot of road races, and one of them happens to be the Turkey Trot. We're very blessed to be involved with that, and Bluegrass Half Marathon, and those that can't run do and plan, and that's what I do. I plan and she runs. But this is Crystal Lander. She's with the Tri-Cities Turtles, so I'll let her speak in a second. But we brought you something. As we've already mentioned, last week or 2 weeks ago, we were the runningest city in the United States in 1984, December. And many of the people we all know is in this magazine, but this is the cover of the magazine. And I was going to get you that outfit, but I couldn't get it now for Amazon in time.
You'd like to see a room clear out real quick. Put me in that outfit right there. So.
But we were very proud of that feat, and we think that we can get that again. We have lots of running groups, and we have these on the back table, and we get given each one of you all, but it's all the running clubs that submit information, and we have running clubs every day of the week. Gosh, 5K programs. I'm going to let Crystal mention that. But we do have a race celebrating this event, and it's called the Downtown Mile. It's just 1 mile. You can run it, walk it, skip it, but just come out and join us. You can be a fan. And it's downtown Johnson City, Wednesday, June 7th. Starts at 7 for the kids, open for anybody at 7:30. And then we do have several elites from all over the United States coming in here to do the final race at 8 o'clock, and there will be some prize money for that. And then we have a kids training. It's called Turkey Trot Training. We start training for the Turkey Trot, and it's supposed to be this Saturday from 8:30 to 2:30 at Current Tipton Stadium. This Saturday. And they can go to our website, goosechase.org, and we'll find all that information.
Your turn. Yeah.
Well, first of all, thanks for having me, and also thanks to Karen Hubbs and Will for making it possible as far as the Turkey Trot in Johnson City and all those that are involved as well. The Tri-Cities Turtles started out with a group of 2 about 2 years ago, and now we're about, 550 or so. Just by looking at this map, we really appreciate you guys for what you're doing today. I have friends that live in bigger cities, and they don't have nearly the amount of running clubs or groups as the Tri-Cities does as far as races, events. So it is a privilege as a runner. I have a t-shirt. It does say I am the world's okayest runner, because I am. I'm not a 5-minute mile. I'm kind of back of the pack, but I do it for my health. I made the best of friends doing it, and like I said, Johnson City is my home. My father grew up here, and needless to say, this is a big deal. It's a big deal for runners. So just want to say thank you so much for me having the time to talk, and appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you.
Mayor, at this time, we have Mr. Wayne Morris with us to come forward and make a presentation concerning the Pepsi fireworks celebration to be held on Tuesday, July the 4th.
How are you?
Fine, sir. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. Pepsi would just like to thank the city for being a partner with this. We've done this for 32 years, and we just wanted to extend our gratitude for it. There's about 50,000 people within the surrounding area that comes out. A lot of great entertainment that we'll have. Some local entertainment. Claire Dunn will be there. The fireworks are kicked off at 9:55. A vehicle is given away to a lucky participant here locally. So we just wanted to come and say thank you for another great year of partnering with us in this. Anyone have any questions for me?
Just want to thank Pepsi for the commitment that you've made over all these years, and I know a lot of people look forward to just the esprit de corps that is generated out at Freedom Hall that evening, and all the great show that goes on, great food that's up there. So I want to encourage everybody to come out and keep the rain away this year as well, hopefully. And thanks again for all the commitment.
Yeah, the interesting thing is it started out as a company event 32 years ago, and it just evolved into this community event. So we're thankful that you allow us to put it on.
Well, we appreciate you. You're great corporate citizens, and my family's enjoyed that for many, many years. We appreciate it very much.
Starts at 5. Everybody come out. Well, I'll be out there working.
We'll be there.
All right, thanks again.
Thank you. The next order of business is, I'd like to ask Chief Mark Scott if he'd come forward and accept a proclamation or a resolution recognizing his years of service.
What's that? As the mayor, I've christened the, to be able to read that, and if I need to read the last piece, I can. But
Okay.
If you'd like to read it, I mean,
All right.
the special board.
Chief, this is a pretty special day for you and for all the citizens of Johnson City, and I'd like to take this opportunity to recognize you by the reading of this resolution. Whereas Mark Scott joined the Johnson City Fire Department in 1987 and climbed through the ranks to sergeant in 1990, lieutenant in 1994, captain in 1998, and was named fire chief in 2012. And whereas under his direction, the Johnson City Fire Department achieved the highest possible Insurance Safety Office Public Protection classification of 1, putting the city amongst the top 1% of communities in the country in terms of fire service. And whereas Chief Scott has led an aggressive community risk reduction program that focuses on public education and residential smoke detector installation, with more than 3,570 smoke detectors being installed in citizens' homes over the past 6 years. And whereas Chief Scott is an expert in the hazardous materials field, being one of the first hazmat specialists in Tennessee, serving as an instructor across the state, and playing a key role in developing the Johnson City Fire Department's hazardous materials team. And whereas he has served on the Washington County Johnson City 911 Board of Directors and was an active member of the National Fire Protection Association, Northeast Tennessee Fire Chiefs Association, Southeastern Fire Chiefs Association, and the International Association of Fire Chiefs. Now, therefore, be it resolved by the Board of Commissioners of the City of Johnson City, Tennessee, upon his June 2nd, 2017 retirement, that Mark Scott is officially commended for his years of service to the city and the community. Mark, I certainly want to compliment you and thank you for all of your 31 years of dedicated service. I know you've put in your whole life into fire service. I think you were the first employee we ever had that had a degree in fire sciences when you came to work here. You've worked many years in hazmat, as we pointed out. I'd also like to recognize the fact that under your leadership, that we have reduced fire deaths from one of the worst in the state to 0 for the last several years, which is a significant accomplishment, and I think is a true statement to the effectiveness of fire prevention education and the installation of smoke detectors. You've truly been an advocate for the department that has brought forward the needs of the department, think under your tenure, we've added more than 10 new fire positions. We've purchased about $4 million worth of fire trucks and made a number of improvements in equipment and training for the men. And the entire city and the region is eternally thankful to you for all that you've done and leadership and providing a safe environment for all of us to live and play in. Another thing, I guess, that was very significant on your watch is the fire department is now a first responder and full-time medical provider, and there was quite a bit of coordination that went on between fire department and EMS to get that in place. And when you're in the top 1% of the ISO ratings in the country, and there are only 3 cities in the state of Tennessee with an equivalent rating, that just speaks volumes of what can be accomplished when you've got somebody at the helm that's focused on performance and making sure that we're checking the boxes we need to and that we're making wise investments. And we certainly want to thank you and show our appreciation. While we're going to miss you, most of us will be most jealous as you spend your retirement traveling the countryside and enjoying far west and enjoying fishing and hunting and all the things that you've so richly earned. And we certainly wish you well in your years of retirement. And at this time, I'd like to ask Captain Harrison if you'd like to say something.
We just appreciate your 30 years of service, consistent service for the city. Wish you well. On your next video, maybe 30 more years of retirement. On behalf of the department, we're going to give you this plaque, recognition for 30 years of consistent service to the city of Johnson City. Thank you.
I don't know what I can add to that, but on behalf of the Board of Commissioners, we'd like to thank you for your service. It's been a pleasure working with you. I've enjoyed the boards we've served on together. I hope you have a long, prosperous, and fun retirement. You've earned it. And I'd say come back and see us sometime, but I'd say you'll find something better to do. But again, congratulations and thank you from all of us. And you have your speech ready, right?
I don't really have a speech ready. I'd like to say thank you to the city and the commissions that have been here in my 30 years. The people, department heads, and people that have really worked to put this city together and make it as great as it is. And the men and women of the Johnson City Fire Department, the people that have been with me or near me throughout my entire career, such as Assistant Chief Harrison here. But I would really like to say I'm honored to be able to stand here and retire. A lot of the people in my profession don't make it to retirement. Our longevity after retirement is very short. And looking at that, taking that into account, I hope to maximize off of the time that I have left and enjoy life. But more so, I was a kid, I always wanted to be a firefighter. I lived the dream. And I came on to the fire department here and started living the dream and really didn't think I would make it to this level or whatever, but I did. Education, training, and experience goes a long way. But anyway, I look forward to passing the torch to someone with all the rights, responsibilities, and authority that goes with it and moving on down the road. But thank you all, and thank you all for standing behind me and helping this department to be the best, and it is one of the best.
Thank you.
As a remembrance of your years of service with us, I would like to present you your retirement watch. May you wear it in good health and for many years to come. Thank you, Chief.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Mark.
Oh, thank you.
Thank you, sir.
The next order of business is consideration of the consent agenda.
All right, Commissioners, anything you'd like to pull for separate discussion on that? Commissioner Van Brocklin? Nothing. Commissioner Wise?
I don't have anything to pull.
All right. Nothing pulled for separate consideration. Don't have a motion to accept the consent agenda.
I move that we accept the consent agenda.
Have a motion and a second. Any other discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll.
Commissioner Fowler,
Yes.
Commissioner Wise,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock,
Yes.
Mayor Temita.
Yes.
The next order of business is consideration of ordinance number 4638-17. Ordinance number 4638-17. An ordinance to amend the zoning map of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, being part of the appendix to ordinance number 1519, entitled "An Ordinance to Adopt a Code of Laws and Ordinances for the City of Johnson City, Tennessee, and to repeal all laws and ordinances in conflict therewith, and amendatory thereof by changing from B1 Neighborhood Business District to R6 High Density Residential University District, certain property located along South Greenwood Drive." Ready for your consideration on first reading.
Ms. Carrier?
Yes, the Johnson City Regional Planning Commission approved this rezoning on May 9th. The petitioner is Mr. Terry Orth, and the proposal is to build 5 4-bedroom units on the property. A concept plan is required. It depicts the 5 units, building setbacks, ingress and egress onto North Greenwood Drive and the parking area. The required neighborhood meeting was conducted on May 4th. No one spoke in opposition to the request during the Planning Commission meeting. Staff does recommend approval. The land use plan has designated this area as being suited for residential uses. It's not out of character with the surrounding area, and it won't create a burden on the existing utilities.
Very good. Any questions?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Jennings, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Fowler,
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin, Commissioner Wise,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock,
Yes.
Mayor Temita.
Yes.
Next order of business is consideration of ordinance number 4628-17. An ordinance to amend the zoning map of the city of Johnson City, Tennessee, being part of the appendix to ordinance number 1519, entitled "An Ordinance to Adopt a Code of Laws and Ordinances for the City of Johnson City, Tennessee, and to repeal all laws and ordinances in conflict therewith, and amendatory thereof by changing from a PB planned business district to a RP2 planned residential district for certain property located along the Bristol Highway." Ready for your consideration on third and final reading.
And this is a public hearing.
Ms. Carrier?
Yes, the Johnson City Regional Planning Commission approved this on May 9th, and there's been a change since there was a first and second reading. Mr. Wade Hughes had asked us to fast track this, and during his development and looking at it, we had to postpone third reading because he had made some changes midway. Therefore, we took it back to Planning Commission with those changes. Those were approved. Now it is back to you for public hearing and third reading. The proposal is to build 31-unit single-family development on the Phase 1. The actual changes from second to third reading is a reduction in the site area that will be RP2. And as you can see, this was the original requested area, and he's reduced it to this specific area based on his business plan and what he would thought would work for this. Therefore, we just reduced that area, and it was approved. We do recommend approval with this rezoning.
Very good. Any questions?
Public hearing.
As we have no questions, I'll open up the public hearing. And is anybody here to speak for or against this ordinance? Seeing no one, I'll close the public hearing.
Move approval.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings?
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin? Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes.
The next order of business is consideration of an amended concept plan for Phase 1 of the Autumn Ridge subdivision.
This is the concept plan associated with that. It shows the new rezoning line and the residential properties here with the increased area of PB. It also shows a stormwater easement that was necessary for this project.
Very good. Any questions?
Move approval.
Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin? Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes. Thank you.
The next order of business is consider approval of the Special Prosecutor Memorandum of Understanding for fiscal year 2018. This is a MOU between the U.S. Attorney's Office, the City of Johnson City, and the Office of the District Attorney General. What this does is we provide funding for a special prosecutor that handles our cases through the federal court. This has proven to be a very effective program that expedites the processing of court cases dealing with federal offenses. One of the bigger assets provided here is that these cases run through federal court, where whatever sentence the person is given, they have to pull the full sentence rather than going through state courts where there is the possibility of serving a reduced sentence and receiving good time and getting out of incarceration a little quicker. We have found this to be an extremely effective deterrent to crime in the city. It's a program that's been in place 10 years or so. So Chief Lowry got this started, and we would certainly recommend your approval of this MOU, and the funding for this is included in the FY18 budget.
Thank you. Any discussion?
Move approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Further discussion? Ms. Jennings, call the roll.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin? Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes.
Next order of business is consider approval of an MOU between the City of Johnson City, administering the Johnson City, Washington County Family Justice Center, and Mountain States Health Alliance Forensic Services, which would establish a partnership agreement for the Family Justice Center. And I don't see Major Patello. What this is an MOU that will allow Mountain States to provide services to clients of the Family Justice Center. And there's Debbie. Come over here, Debbie. Sorry. Thank you, Commissioner. Major, if you could explain the details of this, please, ma'am.
This is an MOU that would provide that the, basically that the Mountain States Health Alliance would kind of partner with the Family Justice Center so they can have more of their things that they offer.
They'll be doing like some on-site testing and things like that.
Yes, ma'am, and they'll actually have people that come there that will help people in need, like if they needed some, maybe some DNA testing.
They come collect it there.
Yes, ma'am.
Move for approval.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion or questions? Ms. Jennings, call the roll.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van
Yes.
Brocklin? Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Tomita?
Yes.
Your next order of business is consideration of a subordination agreement for the Federation of Appalachian Housing Enterprises and Eastern Aid Community Development Corporation. Jimbo, please.
In 2002, we loaned $285,000 to Eastern Aid for low-income housing. And we have a deed of trust down on the property. And that deed of trust says that the loan doesn't have to be paid back as long as the property is maintained as low-income housing. Well, Eastern Aid is doing a refinance of a lot of their properties. Some in Greene County, some in Johnson County, and some here. And it's a $1.2 million loan, and covered under that loan is this property. And so as part of the refinancing, Eastern Aid and the FAHE, Federation of Appalachian Housing Enterprises, has asked that our existing loan, which we've had for 15 years with them, be subordinated to this $1.2 million loan. This is something that we get occasionally. I've seen it several times before. You all may not have in a while or ever, but this is just a matter of course.
So we're in second position.
We will be in second position.
And the only thing that would trigger us to exercise it would be if it stopped being low-income housing.
Yes, and there also has to be THDA approval of any triggering of it too, Tennessee Housing and Development Authority approval. So yes, I mean, it's just so that really Eastern Aid can continue to do what it does for the community.
Very good. Any other questions? Do I have a motion?
Move approval.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Ms. Janice, roll call.
Commissioner Fowler?
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin?
Yes.
Commissioner Wise?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock?
Yes.
Mayor Temita?
Yes.
Your next order of business is from Ms. Candler. If she come up and give us an update on the downtown side. Have you talked to Mr. McKee today?
I have, yes.
Okay.
Had a lovely conversation. No. Thank you for letting me come this evening, Commissioners. I'd like to take just for a second and tell you a little bit about the donors that have come forward for this sign. Some gave $10, some gave $5,000. There have been people who have worked as a teenager at Giant Foods, bagging groceries, that donated, as well as downtown residents and business owners. There's been lifelong residents of downtown and of Johnson City, and surprisingly, there's been young professionals who have been here less than 2 years that have donated towards this project. So it's been a very varied group. We've had over 43 individual and companies contribute to the campaign, in addition to those who supported us at Founders After 5 and the Don JC event. Today our office phone rang off the wall when people heard that there was a deadline, and so we've had a lot of people call and say they want to help save the sign and are going to send in a check. And then several companies have also offered to their support today as well. Kim Schneider chaired the campaign. She made a lot of phone calls and sent letters, and so I really appreciate what she did. The Downtown Johnson City Foundation and the JCDA board, many of them stepped up. They donated, and Commissioner Wise called me yesterday, and he also donated. So we really appreciate that. Currently in hand, we have $59,584 in the bank. We have pledges of $27,250, and those pledges, I can guarantee you they're going to come in. You would, if I could share their names, you would know each and every one of those people that called and asked to have a pledge. There are a couple that did say, can you wait and bill us July 1 because of fiscal year, and this is a 501c3 donation. So our total now is $83,250. We do have a little $3,000 that we would like to see come in to reach the $86,000. I will tell you, as donations come in, there are some things that we would like to add to that sign. The bare bones budget was $86,000. That did not include the information panels at the bottom, at the base of the sign. We do have the brick donated, and we're waiting on the color scheme from Merge, so we make sure that everything is the same color as all the other downtown wayfinding signs. But we did not put in the budget the information panels, which would be history of Johnson City, maybe some information about the green space, who it's named after, that type of thing. And then we would probably have an area there that would have a map of downtown as well. So we'd like to continue to raise money to cover for some of those other projects as well.
Diana, I appreciate all the work that's gone into this. It is not easy raising money. I found that out when we worked on the animal shelter. So appreciate what Kim's done, appreciate what you've done. What the commission's going to really need to know at this point is, at what point do you have a contract with Snyder Signs and you actually are ready to begin?
I talked with Rod Snyder this morning, and he would like half the funds up front, and we can definitely do that now. He will begin replicating the sign. They will get out there, and they said the process would take less than a week on site, but it will take them a couple of weeks to do the design of the sign because there are some some details. Yes. We do want to make sure that that there is power at the base of the sign, because there will need to be power run up the interior of the sign, and that they don't run power, so we'll have to work on that as well.
So you're comfortable that your funds will be there in order to get moving on this promptly at this
Yes,
point?
sir. And he said it would be no problem to have it done by August, whenever we decide we want to cut the ribbon and celebrate the opening of that green space.
Okay, great,
Well,
thank you.
I see Mr. Pinzola sitting here too, so he may want to weigh in on this. Will the sign at the bottom have the name of the park, or Mr. Pinzola, are you planning a different lower level sign to name the park? How's it going to integrate?
I think the concept that you saw was there was a stone cap, and you would embed the name in the stone cap, and then below that could be the various kiosk type signage, whatever we choose to put in.
Or you could put a plate in below the main image. You could do a metal plate on both sides and have the name of the green space.
And we plan to get the power to the sign. That's not a problem.
It's starting to shape up down there. It looks really nice.
Yeah.
And so when are we planning on the park being ready to be open?
Probably in August.
Okay. So the
That's
sign
what it looks
and
like.
that, we're going to have it done and ready to go.
And I would love to do something very creative to open it this.
Yeah, I've got a lot of work on the road system, so that's what's going to really hold us up a little bit. We're trying to get the utilities into the buildings.
With all the rains we've had in the last couple of weeks, how did that particular park do?
Yeah, we've lost 30 to 40 days, so it has kind of hurt us, but we'll get it.
But did the creeks, as you have them designed now, hold the water in place?
Commissioner, everything that we've done is based on our observations and comparing to rainfall, the amount of rainfall. We would have been flooded in certain areas. Saying it's held up beautifully, so we're looking for that. It's not going to solve the problem, but it certainly is making a difference.
All right, we've heard the data. Do we just
yeah, I guess
say
point
go
of
forth and
information.
prosper, or do we want to set another deadline?
Well, I guess the point of information, what action do we need to take now to allow the process to move forward?
I think we told Mr. Pinzola to not hook the chain to the bulldozer for starters, right? Yeah, unhook it. And again, if I heard correctly, it should run concurrent with the opening of the park.
And the pledges that we have, the majority of them, when I contacted them today, they just said, send me an invoice and we'll get it paid. So with the exception of 2 that said we need to wait till July 1, everything else should be there.
But there's nothing that would stand in the way.
We can do the front payment now.
And these pledges are not multi-year pledges, correct?
One is, but it's a very small one. It's a private donor.
Sure.
$1,500.
Over what period?
Oh, it's $2,500.
15 years at
$1,250,
$100 apiece.
$1,250 now, and $1,250 January 1. So, no, yes, that's right. $1,250 now, and then January 1, this individual will give another.
You will be able to pay
He's a board
Mr.
member.
Snyder
Yes,
the
yes.
full amount.
We will.
when they're-
We will, because this is not taking, we still have funds available in the foundation budget, fund.
I know, what are your thoughts about being able to have everything done, give us some assurance by August the 3rd?
Well, when I
Think you have
talked with Rod Snyder today, he said they are firmly committed to complete this sign, and they're very excited to be a part of it in their hometown. And so he said the minute that we ask him to invoice us and we pay him the half of the sign cost, they will go ahead and begin. They already have the drawings from Merge. All of that has been taken care of, and so they will start doing the work in the shop. And that just, because there's several levels and both sides, it will take a little while to do that. But he said, we will let you know when we're going to need to be on site for a week, and move forward from there. The other question is, and I don't believe Merge has let us know, we've got to find out what brick color scheme that we want on that base, and we want to make sure that it coincides with all that we're doing with the wayfinding design. So, but that should be, we should have that in hand. We probably can call Merge now, and they would give us the name of a General Shell brick.
So again, back to the question, do you think August 3rd is realistic?
I believe August 30th is.
You'll be coordinating the big brick with Mr. Gonzalez?
Yes.
To make sure it
Yes.
matches all that.
Well, and it seems, if I may just ask, it seems that the sign project is somewhat dependent on the earth moving and other things. You probably don't want some
Correct.
of those things happening before other things, or vice versa. So, weather can delay, you're going to have to work together, and there may be things that change the date between now and August 3rd. Is that?
Yeah, there are a lot of moving parts in this project right now. And with the weather breaking, they're moving dirt, and we'll start with the sidewalks while we're doing the utilities, the street work. Tonight you approved the decorative railing. We've got a mural that's going in. So all of these moving parts, we'll work together, Diana and I, we'll figure it out. And I don't
want to nitpick, I think the thought is more, come August 3rd, it looks like it does today, then I think you hook the chain back up. But if it's 90% complete, I don't see an issue.
Well, and I think
you have to set some sort of guidelines.
Did you, for your road work, August 3rd?
No.
I think Labor Day weekend, Phil, would be
Yeah.
a really good time for a ribbon cutting.
Yeah, I think the bigger question that's being asked is, are we going to be at a ribbon cutting with the skeleton of an unaltered sign? And I think we would all be very much concerned about that. And as long as the two are going to coincide, and we're going to be dedicating a park where the sign looks the way the sign is supposed to look, not the way it presently looks, we'll all be fine.
Yeah, her fabrication, if I understood her right, is 2 weeks for the fabrication of the sign, so she gets the money, or they get the money. Then they do the installation. I can about assure you they'll have that installed before we're finished. I can assure you that.
But if the power's not ready, will that deter their installation?
No, we'll have the conduits.
Yeah. So what kind of broom will you use to sweep the sidewalk after the work is done?
We'll get it.
Don't bother answering that.
Well, Diana, thanks
Thank you.
for
Thank you
staying
all.
with this. I know sometimes it's been challenging, but I believe what we're going to have downtown, we truly are going to have some iconic landmark now that it has a history, but it's going to be new.
Yes.
And I think it's going to be something well.
I think in 2 years, when we Google Johnson City, Tennessee,
That's
one
what
of the
you said.
first images, or multiple first images, is going to be that sign and people standing in front of it.
And for citizens who don't regularly find themselves down at Commerce or King and in that area around that park, take a side trip and go look. It is quite striking already what the public works and what has happened down there. You'll be very surprised to see what is taking shape.
It's going, you all have created an entertainment corridor between Founders Park, the pavilion, and then this new green space, and it is just going to be, it's a real asset already. Founders Park is, we have hundreds of people come down there every week, but this new green space and the access to the library and the other opportunities that are there, I have ideas. But, it's just going to be a great thing for our community and the visitors to our community.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioners, I will bring to your attention at this time in your information section for our upcoming appointments. This is provided to you as information this evening. The appointments will take place in 2 weeks. You'll have appointments to the Regional Planning Commission, the Tree and Landscape Board, and the Johnson City Housing Authority. I know we've got a couple of folks in the audience that will probably have some interest in those appointments, and I just wanted to point out that is supplied to the board this evening for informational purposes, and the actual appointments will occur 2 weeks from this evening. Your next order of business is consideration of ordinance number 4637-17, which is your budget ordinance for the year. It's an ordinance to establish the property tax rates, appropriate funds, and adopt a budget for the fiscal year July 1, 2017 through June 30, 2018. Laura, go ahead. Please, ma'am. You can make Dustin do it.
We're going to go through this and just give you kind of some brief highlights on what is included in the budget ordinance at this time. When we get through with this, I'll walk you through the amendment that we have for some of the things we talked about in our last work session, and then we'll move forward with that. And public hearing before we vote. We have a balanced budget in the 2018 with the drawdown of $477,000 and some change for our capital funds. There's no increases in our property tax rates, no new debt for the general fund. We have talked about our salary adjustments that we have, the new positions we have. We have funding in here for the city's portion of the aerospace park, and we are continuing our resurfacing schedule on a cash basis. This is the total budget. This is all funds. The increase in percentage increase is budget to budget, and you can see the city portion and the school portion. Spend the next few slides talking about the general fund. Our revenue is up $3.2 million, which is 3.8%. That's budget to budget. Here's a breakdown of the percentages of our revenue. You can see that the largest portion is our property tax and sales tax. Our major revenue sources are listed over to the left, and the first column compares budget to budget with the increase. The second column, Mr. Peterson asked us to put in here. Gives you a little bit more of a taste of what the actual increase is from where we think we're going to be at the end of this fiscal year compared to where we're budgeting for the next fiscal year.
Laura, before you leave that slide, can you explain to me the large percentage increase for in lieu of bribes?
Iris Glenn. Bob, correct me if I'm wrong. Is that the one that had the the accounting entry that we had? Yes. It was under budgeted last year. There was an accounting entry
for 2 years in a row. That's just to get us back up to where it actually should
I
be.
recall that discussion now, it's just
Yes.
not
Yes. Any other questions? Here's a brief history of our property tax revenue. Since 2007, we had the 25-cent property tax increase in FY16. This is the trend for our sales tax revenue. You can see the increase over that same period of time. This slide actually came from ETSU. It just kind of gives you an idea of the retail sales for the 3 cities and the Tri-Cities and where everybody kind of stacks up. General fund expenditures. Again, this is kind of a recap of what we talked about earlier in the week. Our personnel is up 4.2%. That includes the salary adjustment we talked about with the cost of living, the merit increase, and then the other salary adjustments. And our operating expenses are up just a little over $800,000. Here's a breakdown of our expenditures. As you can see, Public Works, Police, and Fire. Our public safety and public works are the bulk of our expenditures in the general fund. Here's some of the building blocks we have. Again, we've got the salary adjustment, we've got the cost of living and merit increase, and then the pay adjustment with benefits. A 1% in the general fund is $265,000. There's no health insurance increase proposed. This year we did have an increase, a little under $200,000 for the general fund on the TCRS rate that came back in. And then we have the employee midpoint pay adjustments at $225,000. Here are some more impacts on the general fund. We have several new positions. I won't read these line by line, but does anybody have any questions on anything specific on the new positions that we have, dollar amounts or?
I think that we're well presented.
Okay, and that does include the benefits as well as the salary adjustments. Here's our additional expenditure cost, the radio cost. We spoke about that also. We have a smaller pool of radio users, so our cost goes up per radio. There's our contribution, the city share of the debt service for the Aerospace Park. The Family Justice Center, all the grant money's expired, so that actually on the books is going to go from the police grant fund to the general fund. Information technology, that's the new software maintenance where we've got some new software, we've got some increased cost as well as the website redesign. And then the fire department, a lot of that is the training costs. We had the SAFER grant with 6 new firefighters, and we've got some training costs associated with that. Our outside agencies, the increase to the library is $90,000, and there's the breakdown on that. And then our quasi-governmentals in total are up $175,466, and there is the breakdown on those. Just as a reminder, Mr. Peterson wanted us just to kind of put this one in here just to give you kind of a little bit of a review on the breakdown that we had for the 25-cent property tax increase we did. We had 10 of those pennies went to resurfacing, 9.5 went to capital equipment projects, and then we had the remainder of that went to the schools. Along those lines with those 10 pennies, as you can see right in here, our street resurfacing, this is our cash basis on our road resurfacing every year, and we've maintained that. Here's the totals on the capital equipment, $2.8 million. Capital projects for our facilities is $10 million. Infrastructure is 9.8, and then the schools is 6.7. The schools is primarily bond proceeds we still have available in there. Our facilities and infrastructure, the majority of that is federal and state funding, and then our capital equipment is on a cash basis. Our transfers for the general fund, our debt service fund, as you can see, we've got an increase this year for some new debt issues and full principal and interest payments. Our transfer to schools, there's no increase from the city transfer to the general purpose school fund this year. We have $2.4 million going over for capital equipment, $513 for capital projects, and the increase on mass transit, one of their job access grants has expired, and they're going to continue that service, and so our local money is going to take care of that.
And this is the breakdown of the operating transfers. Here is a graph that just shows you over that 10-year window what our operating transfer is to the city schools. That's just our maintenance of effort. When we say operating transfer, that's strictly the maintenance of effort that goes over. The total school funding by local government, you can see along the bottom there are several components in addition to the maintenance of effort. We have occasionally some one-time contributions we have for capital. Our student transportation is in there, those kind of things. And then Pam and her staff provided us with some information to give you an idea of what our enrollment has looked like over the last 10 years in the city school system. This is our fund balance drawdown. The red, of course, are the years that we've drawn down fund balance. Everything is actual except for the 2017 hasn't finalized yet, but 2018 is the budget. And this is our ending fund balance as of your ordinance right now is $16.7 million. This is our rainy day reserve. The orange line is our 16% limit, and as you can tell, we're not dipping down beyond our rainy day reserve policy. Our debt service fund, all the principal and interest payments for the general fund portion and the schools portion is a little over $12 million. Our recent issues, you can see there, those 3 recent issues that we have. There's a breakdown, $9.7 million for the city debt and $2.3 million for the school debt. And then a general fund will transfer over that $10.6 million, and the general purpose school fund brings over just under $1 million. Here's a breakdown of the debt service payments. In blue is our general obligation. In orange is the school system debt, and then the other debt are the utility funds. So that's just kind of proportionate to give you an idea of what our total debt, how it breaks out. And here's the school debt. This includes the school funded debt, any school debt that the city pays, and then the PEP debt, the quarter cent sales tax fund. The increase right here is the new school energy system debt we have. For the utility funds, this is kind of just some facts and figures from the solid waste fund, municipal and regional. Here's what our solid waste collections in the city solid waste fund are and have been over the last 7 years. Dustin and I kind of like this slide. We think it's pretty cool. This is about recycling. Our recycling costs are going up and our revenues are dipping a little bit.
And what about that's cool?
Yeah.
We just like the way the graph looks.
Oh, okay. That seems like all the wrong things.
You can kind of tell. I think Mr. Peterson made the comment. You can kind of tell on the graph in this area where cardboard was our big recycling product, where the price of cardboard kind of peaked during that time.
Are the costs going up because of equipment, or what's changed now? I know the cost of gas and all that kind of stuff, but why on recycling?
Why are the costs going up?
Versus general garbage collection? Is that going up as well?
It is. They're probably, the costs are going to escalate pretty well parallel to one another. It's fuel, labor, radios, those types of things. As you can see, the revenue generated off of recycling nowhere near covers the cost of the recycling program, with the exception of that 1 year. And that 1 year is the only year since we initiated the curbside recycling program in 1984, 87, that we've broke even. Now, that is a direct cost versus direct revenue. What's not included in those figures is the cost savings of disposing of that volume in the landfill. So when you look at the capacity savings in the landfill and the saved tipping fees that we pay to dispose of that that trash in the landfill, the savings are pretty big on the recycling program, as well as we have a state mandate to divert 25% of our waste stream out of the landfills.
What is that figure of savings of tip fees, off the top of your head?
I do not know off the top of my head, but we can get that together. That's remind me to do that.
Yeah, just whenever.
I guess my question, with the fee we charge for garbage collection, what is it, $9 a month?
$9 a month, and that covers.
And that includes recycling?
Recycling, the regular solid waste pickup, the brush and limb pickup, the leaf collection. So you've got, the costs reflected in this slide are far beyond just the recycling truck driving by your home every day. That includes all those other services as well.
So at this time, so even though we're taking a loss on the recycling side, it's still netting out that our fee is paying for the whole collection segments. Yeah, I'm not getting it out.
What we are charging for the service, what we are charging for the residential collection services does not produce enough revenue to offset the true cost of the collection or the provision of all those services. What does offset part of that is when we look at the entire waste stream and all the activities and fees that we provide and charge in the solid waste fee. When you put all of the revenues together from everything and weigh that against all the expenses from everything, our fee is adequate. That's probably something we're really going to have to look at pretty hard over the next couple of years. There's an interesting slide coming up here in a minute that'll give you a little feel for where we are in relationship to what our statewide averages on a number of utilities.
And as a point of clarification, so that we don't misunderstand the graph, the blue bars are tons, not expenses, if I'm reading the label at the bottom.
Yes.
So it's not that we're seeing the expenses be overtaken by the revenue in FY11.
Right.
It's apples and bananas up there. Yeah, that's
And
right.
this
It's
is-
garbage and recycling.
And this is just one line item.
Exactly.
Hey, why are we pulling that particular data out to highlight and not maybe the total cost of waste collection and revenue generated? Is that coming up?
That
I don't think
total
we-
cost is not.
I don't think we
we'll be
have on
glad
this
to get
one.
to it. Yes, sir.
Well, because you always have to have a loss leader, right? There are things that are loss leaders, but if the remainder of the services are done a little.
So we
more
hook them
efficiently.
with our underpriced recycling, and then we get them with the trash?
That's right. That's
Okay.
right. Get 'em in the door.
Get them in the door with
Get 'em in the door.
recycling, and then just bill
We
them
did
for
remain
trash.
party to the agreement.
All right.
Well, you did answer the question I had a hard time getting at, so
Yes,
thank
sir.
you.
This is the regional solid waste collection in tons. We saw the municipal just a few slides ago. Here's the cash flow for the city solid waste fund. As you can see, this is their ending cash. This is probably, Dustin, correct me if I'm wrong, this is the last year they have the large purchases in the city fund?
Yes, ma'am. In the municipal side of solid waste, there's a large capital expense. FY18 is the last year for about 4 or 5 years that there will be a large capital expense on the municipal side. That will shift to the regional side starting FY19. As a point of clarification on the recycling side, and then I'll move on, there was a question early on in our budget meetings of specifically about recycling and what the revenue looked like on recycling. And so what we wanted to show was that even though tonnage is going up, revenue is going down. And that was the whole point of that slide.
So thank you. We'll make sure we understood what a bad business that is, right?
And of course, this is regional solid waste cash flow. The point to both of these two slides is that we are able currently to provide purchase of the equipment on a cash basis. Stormwater fund, there's just a few facts about stormwater and some of the things that they do. There's the cash flow on stormwater. This is, the capital project is King Commons. to finish that one. That's the only major project they have proposed for FY '18. Here's water sewer. This was a slide that Mr. Peterson was alluding to just a few minutes ago. These are just kind of some Tennessee average for utilities and services we have. Average Tennessee for residential garbage collection is $12.
And I'd like to point out the big takeaway there, I think in this slide, when you think about essential services, solid waste pickup, water, sewer, gas are all cheaper than internet, cable TV, and a cell phone, which I would argue with you are absolutely non-essential services. While some people find those fees perhaps annoying.
Would you talk
it's
to my
a real
13-year-old
deal.
about that?
Argue with our kids about that.
You can cut the water off, but not the phones.
No, it's clear, we're a bargain.
We really are. Essential
And we should
services
be.
really are.
And we should be.
Here's the rate comparison among several cities and across Tennessee and close to us as far as the water rates inside the city. Water and sewer.
But before you get off there, a significant takeaway on that slide, if you will notice, the green bar represents sewer cost. Look at Knoxville, Oak Ridge, and Morristown and how disproportionate the green bar is to the blue bar. All of those cities received an order from the EPA or TDEC. That's the reason that you continually see large expenditures on the sewer side of our water sewer system for plant expansions, line improvements, line replacements, those types of things. We're staying out ahead of an order. We don't foresee one coming, but we're doing everything we can to evaluate our system to ensure that we're in compliance and that we won't be faced with one of these orders, because what happens there is the EPA or TDEC comes in and mandates that you shall do this amount of work, and they really don't care what it costs and what it does to your rates. And we feel like we're much more cost effective and we're in control of our destiny when we can be proactive and identify areas where we need to make investments into our system. And I think this clearly demonstrates that when we take that approach, we have a much better ability to control costs to our customers.
This is our water and water sales. The green is sewer, the blue is the water. Since 2001, you can kind of see what's happening with our water and sewer.
Low flow toilets work.
Yes.
But does that ever at some point, because sewer is predicated on the flow of the water, and so will that ever have to change how that cost is allocated between those two expense? As low flow, if people are using less water, they're still putting the same, the waste stream doesn't fundamentally change. I mean,
What are you talking?
If you're using 2 gallons of flush with a regular toilet and a low flow is 1 gallon of
right,
flush.
I understand that, but the cleaning up of the 1 gallon, I mean, okay.
Let me see if I can answer
Yeah,
this.
thank you. I'm
What I
trying not to
figure.
have to say it so bluntly.
You still have the same number of miles of pipe and the same amount of capacity and equipment to move the wastewater and the same amount of work and equipment at the plant. And you've still got to maintain all of that, and you've still got to replace and repair all of that, whether you're running 1 gallon or 2 gallons through all of that. So you've got quite a substantial piece of fixed cost there that isn't going to fluctuate as a result of the volume flowing through the system. I tried to anticipate your question. I hope that answered it.
think it did. I'm gonna stop because I feel like it's just, I'm gonna step in something, if you know what I'm saying. We can move on. We can move on. There's nothing further to talk about.
It's the same phenomenon as with electric, with all the energy efficient appliances, with fuel efficient cars.
Right, and
They
so
still have to
the
use the
system
roads
costs
and everything,
remain the
yeah.
same, but the revenue that feeds are dwindling. I guess I was just trying
Not
to
only
figure
remain
out.
the same, but increase in terms
Right.
of the operation costs, which you
Right.
can't do away with because of that.
We just need to move on. Can we talk about traffic or something?
I'm about finished with water sewer.
Thank you.
This is the cash flow for water sewer. You can see the difference on the bottom line between 17 and 18 is relatively, their cash is relatively flat for both years. This is the fluid number, as we talked about, their rate funded capital is the fluid number in their cash flow at this time. Other funds, real briefly, Freedom Hall revenues are up slightly. So are the expenses. Our general fund transfer is $150,000, which is $50,000 less than it was in the prior year. Capital improvements we have for Freedom Hall, the $250,000 are the additional things that we've got to do, that we have some extra bond proceeds that are just going to carry over from the current fiscal year. Golf revenues are up just a little bit. Our operating expenses again are up just a little bit. We've done some work at Pine Oaks, and some of the grass and seeding that's planned for 2018 is also driving that up. We have $100,000 in there. There's $50,000 in projects, $50,000 in equipment. Both of those are for Pine Oaks on a cash basis, and our transfer is planned at $525,000. Mass Transit, again, we've talked about their budget a good bit. Some of their revenues are down. Again, that's from some of the state funding that's come in. Operating expenses are up. Part of that is their salary adjustment. And then we talked about the general fund transfer being up $200,000 to accommodate the job access grant. Are there any questions at this point? Okay.
I would like to ask, since, thanks for the schools being over, Dr. Barnett, welcome, and Mr. Chupa and Dr. Anderson. I noticed, how many students were we down this year over last year? Do y'all want to come up?
Come on, Pam, you've got to talk. This is your last
Y'all been here
opportunity.
sitting, I know. I'm thinking up some questions to ask you, so you can.
Don't let her off easy.
If she asked why we were here, I was going to say Pam's last.
Please come. Well, first of all,
Hide over in the corner, you can let me.
First of all, thanks for bringing a balanced budget. That's great. And I think, you know, a lot of the business activity in Johnson City is allowing us to have a balanced budget here, and a lot of the business growth, and people buying things and paying sales tax all goes to the schools and the cities and things for that. But what are you projecting this year for next year in terms of, are you going to have growth or continued decline?
Go ahead and take that.
This year, we're down around 54 students. If you look at our BEP, which is funded on the current year ADM, we're down about 18 students as far as funding goes. The BEP does have a 2% growth component to it, so if we have grown this time next year, hopefully we'll get some state funding for that. Our graduating class was smaller than the kindergarten class coming in, so we are hoping that the enrollment is going to go back up. They did have a numbers meeting today. I was unable to attend, but looking at where teachers need to be placed based on current numbers, we would be down one position going into the next school year. But we start looking at that every day once school starts, and as I said, we've already had our first meeting so far this year. So we're looking at it very closely. Dr. Barnett can probably talk a little bit more about how late kindergarten students actually come in and enroll.
We usually have, just for instance, with Town Acres, we usually have 55 or so about this time of the year. End up with about 70. We already have 83 enrolled. So I'm expecting at least from that to be growth, but it could be down in other places. One of the things that the school board wants us to look at in the next 60 days, it was 90 a month ago, but I've been running the school. So about 60 days, we're going to be looking really heavily and working with some of the city staff about birth rates, what are those projections, where are we growing as a city, looking at capital improvements that might need to be made over the next 5 to 10 years, and getting back to the school board with that information by the fall.
The question was about the reduction in the enrollment, but when you look at the chart that I saw in one of the slides a few minutes ago, it looked like the trend line was actually over year. It's been going up.
It is.
Is there a rough number for what the city schools enrollment is increasing over that longer span?
We typically grow around 2% a year, on average.
And so that's what, about 80 or 100 students?
Yes.
Okay.
Correct.
We have a lot of students, ELL students.
Yes.
Were you seeing more a decline in that population?
No,
by chance? Or?
We're not.
What do those letters mean?
English, that's the same.
Those are English language learners.
Thank you.
And the state of Tennessee is reducing the pupil-teacher ratio for that, so we are having to add 2 teachers in this budget to take care of the ratios for teachers and interpreters.
We have quite a, like 4% of our population.
Dr. Anderson means 4%.
Yeah. So we have more than anybody in Northeast Tennessee in our school system. So you're having to add 2 teachers.
Hamilton County is high.
So when you look at those enrollment growth numbers, I'm just curious about that. There doesn't seem to be any kind of singular spike. It's not like you can say, well, this new subdivision was built and 300 new students, or we annexed this large population. And it looks to be overall pretty consistently marching in one direction. Is that a correct interpretation, or are there specific explanations for that growth that shouldn't be anticipated over the next 5 years?
I think it looks like a good explanation. We're going to find out in the fall with our enrollment. So if we have 2 years in a row where we're down, then maybe we're on a down tick. But I think we'll find out when the students come to school in the fall.
That's how it works.
That's it.
We've also opened up tuition a little bit this year. We always watch those numbers to make sure we're not having to add teachers. But we're taking tuition at
Woodland and Cherokee and Science Hill High School.
So hopefully that will help with the numbers, especially on the elementary level.
I think it's, Dr. Burnett, I'm glad to hear to say the work that y'all are going to be doing here and working with the city, in terms of really capital planning as well, looking at population growth and our capacity in all the different schools, what kind of plan and what we're going to be needing in the next 5 years versus the next 10 years.
Yes.
And, so we can have that discussion, early on to be able to really get a good understanding what the challenges are. I think we all are up to speed and know that Indian Trail is, at capacity.
Yes.
So where are our pinch points now? And I'm sure you've got some tools at hand that you can do some, I won't say redistricting, I'm not going to say that. But I think the sooner we work together on that, the better. So, it's a good piece of work.
Pam does retire at the end of the month. She's amazing.
We were going to address that.
If I could, one of the attributes I always tell bookkeepers, have been principal of 4 schools, and one of the greatest attributes of somebody who deals with money and finances is someone who has that ability to be accurate, but also to go to educators, because generally we're not great at finances, but to look at someone and explain things in a way that they walk away feeling better and understand it, and not feeling worse about themselves. So she does that. She does an incredible job with that, so she'll be sorely missed.
Pam, as a former school board member and now commissioner, I want to thank you and how much I enjoyed working with you when I was on the school board and now. Your financial reports every month were, the way you laid them out were so helpful and really kept the public informed about the financials of the school system. So good luck.
Thank you so much. I've had a great school board members, director of schools, and city commissioners.
Yeah.
City manager, even though he gives me a hard time. I wouldn't have it any other way. Thank you all. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you.
You've been great.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Burnett.
Enjoy your retirement.
Thank you.
Public hearing?
Yes, I was going to ask you if you wanted to go ahead with the public hearing before we start talking about the amendment that we have before you.
Do we need the amendment before we discuss?
Probably do.
If that's what you
Yeah,
want to
let's
do.
go ahead and do the
Okay,
amendment so
sure.
that we've got it
Sure,
all.
sure, sure.
Yep.
Okay. Everything we've talked about so far is laid out in the ordinance before you. These are things that we discussed at our last work session, changes. So I'm going to walk you through just kind of general, changes that are to be made. And then we can move forward with the public hearing and then discussion. Those adjustments to the capital funds, as you can see, the first one you'll see down below are related to all the funds that are below that. That's just to adjust for some capital equipment projects, things we've discussed. Two, I will call to your attention are the equipment and projects. This is the 100,000, and I'll explain that part of the amendment in a little bit. But this is the slope. This is additional money for one of the projects here in the detention facility.
You might want to give them a little more detail other than this is the slope.
Oh, I'm going to get to that. So
Okay.
hold on just a minute. I'm getting there. I just want to
Sorry.
kind of just breeze through the transfers. Yes, I'm getting there.
Sorry.
Yeah, these will all wind up in the transfers. These are just adjustments that we're going to make up here to accommodate some of the projects that you'll see below that we've discussed. I'll talk a little bit now about the golf fund. There was a discussion to move the golf fund into the general fund. So in order to do that, we will do away with the transfer to the golf fund because now it'll be inside the general fund. So that transfer goes away. We will add the golf revenue and the golf expenditures to the general fund. So those are the adjustments that'll be made in the general fund. The Capital Project Schools Fund, this was the slope repair on the bank at Science Hill that Alan Cantrell presented to you the other night. This is the total cost with everything, light poles and the entire thing that he mentioned. This is the whole cost of that particular bank that is slipping. In the Facilities Fund, we have the detention facility plumbing. Mr. Wilson spoke about the cost of that going up when the bid came in, and so there's the adjustment to accommodate that. Capital Equipment Fund, what we're going to do in the Capital Equipment Fund is we will take away one of the trucks was mentioned for Public Works in Mr. Penzola's budget. And if we move the golf fund in, added to that will be the golf fund equipment. And in the Facilities Fund, the golf fund project will move in there. General Purpose School Fund, I went over the adjustments that they had made. There's no new transfer from the city in their budget. What they have done is there's a slight adjustment in their revenue, and then the expenditures, Pam answered the questions about the details on the expenditures, the 3 or 4 categories that she had, the reasons those were up, resulting in a fund balance drawdown. So their budget is balanced with the fund balance drawdown. And then the last one is the golf. We would just take the revenue out of the enterprise fund golf funds and the expenditures and move those into the general fund. And so that's the amendment that you'll vote on that's the amendment before you for first reading to the original budget ordinance.
Very good.
Any questions? Okay.
I think we should, correct me if I'm wrong, but we should vote the amendment. in,
And the comments can be on the full.
and then the comments would be on the full budget. Is that,
As amended.
Gina?
Mayor, I'd like to divide this suggested amendment into two separate facets, please.
Okay.
I would like to pull golf out of the initial consideration because that involves a decision on whether or not we want to change golf from a enterprise fund to rolling it into the general fund. As I indicated at the budget workshop, I'm a little uncomfortable with doing so. I think that the way that things are set up right now allows us to very easily see how much golf is costing us. I don't see a strong advantage to changing, based on what I heard at least during the budget workshop, to changing the way that we do things here. And I think that it will lead to more work for finance based upon what I've heard. So I'd like to divide it into two separate considerations. The first consideration, I would make the motion that we approve on first reading the following amendment. Under General Fund, adjust transfer to Capital Project Schools Fund, $531,125. Adjust transfer to Capital Projects Facilities Fund, $105,000. Adjust transfer to the Capital Equipment Fund, $125,000. Under the Capital Project Schools Fund, add slope repair at Science Hill High School, $531,125. Under Capital Projects Facilities Fund, add revise the cost of the detention facility plumbing municipal building improvements, $105,000. Under the Capital Equipment Fund, remove Public Works equipment, $125,000. Under the General Purpose School Fund, remove various revenue line items, $87,474, and add various expense line items, $550,074.
Very good. Do I have a second?
Second.
All right. Any discussion?
Some clarification, Dr. Van Brocklen, up in the general fund. So you're saying the 531, that's within in the amendment. 105, the 50/50 for the facilities fund and equipment fund for capital projects. You're eliminating those?
Yes, because they pertain to golf.
And I missed it down on the capital projects, the detention, the 105 is in,
It
right?
is, yes.
And the equipment, public works equipment.
Okay.
So you're just basically removing everything golf, and then we'll have that
For separate
conversation
consideration.
about fundamentally, philosophically, do we want to take it from the enterprise? Okay.
Okay, so this is what the amendment looks like, and I'll make sure I'm following Commissioner Van Brocklen. All that's left in the amendment on first reading is the transfers to the capital funds and the equipment fund to accommodate the bank repair at Science Hill High School, accommodate the additional cost of the detention facility work. That's taking out the public works equipment, and then the general purpose school fund. That removes everything but golf. Okay. Thank you.
Everybody clear on that? Do I have a second?
Commissioner Wise.
I thought I seconded
Okay.
it.
All right.
But I'll second it again.
Thank you. Just it's nice to have confirmation sometimes. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? Ms. Jennings, will you call the roll?
Commissioner Fowler.
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklen.
Yes.
Commissioner
Wise.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock.
Yes.
Mayor Tomita.
Yes. All right.
Second part of the motion for the amendment then would pertain to golf. I guess I realize since I'm going to vote against this, I can't really make the motion. I'll let somebody else.
Could I ask Ms. Jennings if we took out the golf enterprise fund, would that make it easier or harder to do the general fund with golf in the general fund?
That depends.
That's why we're asking.
Reporting.
That depends.
I mean,
If
you'll still be able to give us the kind of reports that we get today.
if nobody tells me how they want me to do that, then it is not that much more work. I mean, it's not enough to make a decision based on that. I can leave everything as it is right now. I have to make one journal entry to change the accounting method. And that's a one-time thing. That's not very difficult to do. And if nobody makes me do anything else other than that, then I can give you as much detail as you want on a monthly basis, just like I do now. Some things are going to disappear. Depreciation will disappear. But other than that, I can give you as much detail or as little as you want.
After that is done, would it make your job easier or harder?
It's just not even consequential. I mean, it's really a philosophy decision on your part. Do you want it to be a service of the general fund, or do you not want it to be a service of the general fund?
I think the rationale, and Dr. Fowler won't speak for you, but knowing, as we've discussed, that a big portion of a municipal golf course is very different than a private golf course because it serves the community, it serves our high schools, it's their home course, they play matches there, junior programs are there, so there's a lot of goodwill that goes on in our municipal courses, much like our parks. And so when you wrap all that in, you're not generating revenue off that as an enterprise fund, and it always makes that enterprise fund not look healthy. And so that's, I think, what...
Right, I just think it should be included in Parks and Rec because it's a recreation for our citizens more than it is trying to make money off of an enterprise fund. But
And many cities.
I provide you reports that complement the financial package for economic development reserve for the hotel motel tax. I can maintain a report that gives the detail of the operations of golf for accountability purposes, if you wish to see that, just like I do now.
Yeah, I mean, we've had those discussions for a while, and I don't think we've been deluding ourselves to think that, you know, that will be an enterprise fund that would be profitable. It never has been, never will be. I think it gave us a better sense of where we were, and I guess my concern is it gets lumped into the mass, and once the 5 people sitting at this table are gone, may never be looked at separately again. And I mean, it'd be up to the commissions that follow us to extract that, to request the extraction of that information. So whether that's important or not, I don't know. But I think it's helped me get a better sense of what we're spending. And true, we don't give that same level of detail to other things.
Softball fields or anything else that we do. So. Yeah, I guess I would be hesitant to change things just to change things without a really strong rationale to change them. At the same time, golf and an enterprise fund doesn't really make a lot of sense to me because the enterprise funds are essentially there to break even. And whereas in water and sewer and solid waste and other enterprise funds, if they start to become more expensive than the revenue they generate, you can adjust the rates. We're not going to change cart and green fees because we're losing money on golf, because we lose even more money on golf if we did that. I'm not fully, I mean, I guess, could we defer action on this and so there's, have we made a motion on the golf amendments? You know, perhaps defer action on that and discuss, I guess, the underlying rationale for now after, 20-some years since golf was put in an enterprise fund? Is it like 93 or 94? That what the rationale would be to do that now. I would push back on the notion of knowing how we do on golf because we don't know how we do on baseball. We don't know how we do. There are a lot of other things we don't know how we do on. And I would hope future commissions would ask those kinds of questions. It would just be helpful to me right now to know why now. How do we explain it other than the fact that we set this thing up 2.5 decades ago in a way that probably, in retrospect, doesn't make sense?
Okay. Well, we have a request to defer action on that piece. Is there any?
If we'll move forward on it, within the next
Well, I mean, that same amendment could be made at second reading, could it not? And so, you know, what we're
Yes.
essentially doing is we've got the First Amendment in there.
Yes.
We can open up public comment on that, and then we'll be back together to do this again in 2 weeks, and we can.
So what additional information though? I mean.
I'd like to understand why we need to do that now and what it is we think we get other than singling out golf for undue scrutiny. You know, what other, and I can't speak for Commissioner Van Brockland, but I think he has questions about it too.
Yeah, you know, I have yet to hear a clear enunciation of why we would do this. What compels us to think that we need to take this from being an enterprise fund? Other than that, there's the feeling that it's not truly an enterprise function. You know, it's worked fine to this point. It gives us clear information about where golf stands as far as which course is losing what amount of money. We don't have to ask that it be extracted separately. It's there for us every year. It's very easy for us to see where that stands. It does help us give the golf board, and Jenny's been a member of that, some guidance as far as what we expect out of them to be able to try to cut that deficit down. I don't understand why you take something that gives you very clear information and you change how you do it unless there's strong rationale that nobody has explained to me as to why you would do that. And I just don't see the advantage to it.
Well, Commissioner, we're holding the golf courses to a standard by being an enterprise fund when they don't have the revenue base because they are a service over here in a big portion of it.
I understand that, but...
And wait, let me finish here, please. And then, because they aren't self-sufficient, we have to subsidize them. And that's been for years. Then they become a sitting target on an ongoing basis for criticism. And when we criticize our golf courses, then people are out there, which could affect participation and play for the portion of the golf courses that do generate revenue.
No, I don't believe that for a moment. I don't believe that impacts whether people play or they don't play. What I think it does do is what I do think it does is it allows us to see how much money is being lost, and then we get involved, as I think we should, in trying to figure out how to make that net transfer less. And I think that it has had an impact over the last 2 to 3 years, that we've kept a close eye on that. I think that there have been changes within management of the golf course. I think that there has been a greater commitment on the part of this commission to make the investments that hopefully over time make that transfer less. I think if this were lost in the general fund, we would not get involved to the same degree. We would not have the impact that we've seen over the last 2 to 3 years. So I don't agree that by scrutinizing carefully that's problematic. I just don't.
I don't see that we wouldn't be, because what Ms. Jennings says, we'll still get the same reports.
Would we do the same thing with Freedom Hall? Well,
That's a philosophy question.
yeah, I don't want to get too far in the
Can't
weeds
say
on
yes
this,
or
but
no
we've got-
to that one.
We're talking about a
Do
very
you want
small
it to
piece
be a
of the budget that
service?
we can amend.
That's really different because,
Yeah.
well,
Well, it is, yeah, it is, but it is.
it is, but it is, yeah.
Well, and I guess to dovetail, I'm still conflicted on this question. The thing that has me hung up on it is not whether golf should or shouldn't be an enterprise fund. It's whether we should change the way we account for golf 25 years into it without, I understand where you're coming from, but like, why now? Why change? And it seems like the only thing is the undue scrutiny that comes to golf. And that's fair, except though I don't know that I necessarily want to be the one arguing for less transparency and accountability in government. I would want more of it. And so
I think that it's a philosophy question,
Yes,
and
it
I don't
is.
want to run headlong into changing something we've done for 2.5 decades on a whim. And so I would say, I would make a motion, if I may, that we put this on the table until we meet again in 2 weeks, and we can take that amendment up at that time and deal with individual questions we may have about the philosophy question.
And I'm okay with that as long as we keep it where we're discussing it before the next.
I don't think we'll all let it rest.
I'm very confident.
I'm confident we'll hear about it
It will be
again.
discussed.
Back to my question to you, Commissioner Wise, is the specific questions we need to get answered. And who's going to go off and answer those questions?
Well,
so that we have more information.
right,
on what we're
I
discussing
mean,
here
between
today.
now and then, I'd like to better understand what is the justification for making that change in FY18.
And I'd like to know why this was ever made an enterprise fund.
Well, and there's a history to that, and that's a fascinating twisting, turning road in and of its own right.
It probably had to do with the bonds. We have bonds.
And we
It's
don't
not the
have
bonds.
bonds on it.
Okay.
Correct.
Mr. Peterson probably knows.
So,
All right, we have a motion. Do we have a second?
Bearing in mind, again, all the.
I'll second.
Any more discussion?
Mayor, before you vote, could I ask for you to open public hearing and close public hearing before you cast the final vote on the budget, please, sir?
Okay.
Well, I think we're voting on the
We're
motion.
voting on the
table,
amendment still.
The
is that
amendment.
okay? That
We
is-
split
You
these-
voted on the amendment to
First
take
one.
golf out.
Yeah.
No, we haven't.
No, we've not.
You
This is
voted
the
on
one
leaving it out,
we'll
but then we're
extract
voting
from.
on whether we're going to add
We're
it
about
back
to
in,
vote
and
on
we're about to
golf.
vote to put that off for a little while
To the
longer.
table.
we voted.
You're
to
still
get
good,
out.
Laura, sit tight,
You're
sit
good.
tight, they're good.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's pulled out already.
There's going to be a public hearing, don't you worry. There's going to be one.
I
We need to
think
vote.
the motion was
To
to
put it
bring
on
the
the table.
discussion back to the table.
Right.
Table it.
And to have the board flesh out the philosophy going forward on golf.
So you don't have to vote on it
Be
if there's
sure
not
to
an
get that
objection.
done.
Yeah, I don't think we need to vote.
Okay. Sorry.
Ta-da.
All right.
I will now open the public hearing. Is there anybody that would like to address the commission with regards to the budget? First reading. Okay. Seeing none, close the public hearing. Are you happy now?
Yes. There's a story behind that, I'll tell you on another day.
All right, so.
Give me a call roll on the tabling.
We didn't need to.
I don't,
Okay.
I think if there's
We're
no
good.
object, yeah.
Okay.
It had already been extracted, we just never
Yeah.
put it back in. Okay. So now we have. Well, no, we have to vote on.
You gotta vote on the
We have not
budget.
voted on the budget. Do I have a,
Or amend it more, or whatever you're gonna do.
So do we have a motion to,
Not yet.
we haven't made
We
the
need-
motion?
correct.
Okay.
Make a motion that we accept the budget as we decided with the amendment.
Second.
Okay. Have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Ms. Jennings, you can call the roll, please.
Commissioner Fowler.
Yes.
Commissioner Van Brocklin.
Yes.
Commissioner Wise.
Yes.
Vice Mayor Brock.
Yes.
Mayor Temita.
Yes.
Very good, thank you. Next thing on your agenda is the manager's report. I would like to report on a couple of things. We began having some internal staff discussions about the upcoming sesquicentennial, which will take place in 2019. We've got some folks on staff that are contacting other entities that have celebrated centennials, bicentennials, sesquicentennials, and to try to learn from those who have done this, what works, what doesn't work. We're working towards somewhere in the next 45 to 60 days to come back before you with an outline of what we feel like would be an appropriate recognition of the 150th anniversary of the city charter. So I just want to keep you all in the loop. 2019 is going to be here really quick. And I think it's going to be important that we get a decision made on to what degree we want to get involved with the celebration and decide how we're going to approach the plans and the preparations for the celebration. And we really need to get this process in motion sometime this fall in order to be fully prepared to do the celebration when 2019 gets here.
I hate to use the word task force again, but perhaps we could form a task force of staff, elected officials, chamber, folks involved, because we need a party. We need to celebrate. That's it.
Would a blue ribbon commission be better than a task force?
That sounds better.
I know, it really does.
Well, a centennial blue ribbon panel. How about that?
And we'll come, like I said, we'll be back to you in 45 or 60 days with, here's an outline of what others have done and some ideas, and you all can decide how you want to move forward.
And along those lines, we have conversations about the website going on, we have conversations about the logo going on, and those are all things that can dovetail with a significant milestone like a sesquicentennial, which for the record is 150 years, in case you're not up on how to break that out. But that does present a good marketing opportunity for the city because it becomes an opportunity to talk about Johnson City. And so I would applaud the effort to start those conversations earlier.
Rather than later. Yes, that's a big deal. We need to celebrate.
Okay.
And learn to say sesquicentennial.
And practice pronouncing the word.
That's a challenging word for some of us to say. I can't believe I got it out twice correctly. As we recognize this evening, Chief Scott is retiring. Tomorrow will be his last day on duty. We'll be, just give you an update on the process. We had 90 plus applicants for the job when it was advertised. We had an internal group that reduced that number down to, I believe, 13 that there were Skype interviews with. We have since reduced that number down to 5, and we're going through the process now of background investigations, personality profile tests, and some things like that. We're working towards having someone selected and start discussions on making an offer to someone sometime in the next 7 to 10 days. We need to get that process moving quickly and get Chief Scott replaced. I've been very impressed with the medium-sized group that was brought forward, and we've got a hard decision to make. We've got some quality candidates to look at there.
It's a great town, a great job.
It is. There's one of 3 like it in the state of Tennessee. Work and discussion continues on the Sports Science Center that's been proposed in conjunction with East Tennessee State University. That's a tremendous economic development opportunity before us that certainly needs a lot of our attention and efforts to try to help all those parties involved bring that together. There will be very regular meetings ongoing over the next few weeks, couple of months, and we'll be bringing more information back to you on that as that moves forward. The Mayor Eldridge, and myself had a real good meeting with folks at Northeast State the other day, dealing with trying to decide if there were some opportunities for dual enrollment, dual credit programs, and better utilization of existing facilities or the needs of additional facilities to accommodate workforce development and education. I felt like it was a very productive meeting, and there were some good ideas that came out of that we're following up on. As you all are aware, one of our challenges with economic development is obviously workforce development and having an educated, trained workforce, and I want to recognize Lottie Ryans and all the work that she's done to get some certification programs going and to get some employers involved in trying to help us with workforce development. Mr. Stahl and I had a very productive and pleasant meeting with Mayor Lynch over in the town of Unicoi last Friday, and we discussed a variety of issues from golf courses to recreational opportunities, the the development of the trail system through Buffalo Mountain and tying into the AT. And I think there's a very open, productive dialogue in place with the town of Unicoi about some opportunities that we can have to work with them to promote the outdoors and employment, workforce development, and all kinds of good things. It was a very good meeting. And I would be glad to answer any other questions, take direction you may have.
Pete, there was some media coverage of the lack of accessibility at the Gump Pavilion at the Rotary Park.
Yes.
Can you give us an update on where we are with the plan?
I'm going to ask Charlie to come up. Charlie's been working on that, and he can give us a very current update on it. Just sitting here this evening, I think you all got a couple of emails since the meeting's been ongoing, but Charlie would be glad to explain all that.
We obviously have great success with the Boundless Playground. A lot of folks of all ages are coming out, and we also found out one of the, I guess, benefits of success. We also have demand in usage of our pavilions, which is probably, even though Memorial Day always brings out a lot of folks renting pavilions, we do see a consistent interest in not only pavilion use, but also attendance at the Boundless Playground, and brought the issue front and center about there are some folks that are renting pavilions in a rustic park, which, as was pointed out this evening with the Rotary Centennial, much of those pavilions were built in the 1950s. There are two existing ADA restroom sections that are at the London and at the Harris Pavilion, but we recognize the need to address additional restrooms, not just because of the crowd, but also basically the usage throughout the whole park. So I've asked Water Sewer Department to identify permanently a location for potential restroom site at the Oakland Avenue end of the park towards the Gump Pavilion, and they've actually identified a potential site for a restroom there. They've also identified putting an additional permanent restrooms across from the Harris Pavilion as you walk into Rotary Park on the pathway, the Harris being on your left. There's a site on the right that would also be suitable for permanent restrooms. But on short term, we've also installed 2 sets of restrooms in the center of Rotary Park on a temporary basis, as well as a temporary restroom near the Gump Pavilion adjacent to Oakland Avenue. And Mr. Ellis informs me this evening that we are actively looking at even putting, we have 2, and our 2 new commissioners may not know this, we actually purchased years ago 2 mobile restroom units for male, female restroom units that are air conditioned and heated, and they can be seen usually at the big games at Science Hill every year. But right now, one is used at the lakefront for our concert series, but we are looking actively at an appropriate site to put a mobile restroom unit at Rotary Park that hopefully is not intrusive, but yet still accessible. So we've not made a decision of where that could best go, but we're looking at that right now. But right now, as of May, we do have 3 portable units that are in Rotary Park to address the overflow crowds. I shouldn't say overflow crowds, the crowds that we hope to have, but the success is much greater than we anticipated, frankly.
Yeah, I don't know that the coverage reflected the fact that the citizen that brought that to our attention was very complimentary of, I guess, your brother, Charlie Stout.
Stout, that's the name, yes, sir.
And the manner in which that was handled, the speed in which it was handled. So thanks, Charlie. That's a good job.
Thanks, sir.
You know, it's one of those unintended consequences. I mean, you never had to deal with that in the past.
I've not been there
every problem to have.
I've not been there every day, Mayor, but I've been there weekly, and even in early hours since the crowds start coming on, and even if it's overcast, there's folks there at the parks. Great success.
Just one other thing, I think I left you a pretty lengthy message today, but I was up there today, and I don't know, 300, there had to have been at least 300 people in there or more. But I did note that many of the adults who were there are grandparents. And so there's really not maybe enough seating space because under the pavilion, everybody stakes out those picnic tables. But you might want to consider, even if you change the configuration of picnic tables, you can probably put another row of those in, or if we could get some benches and go along the fence line that's up against Rotary Park, because that's shaded over there, might make it a little bit more comfortable for them.
If you've not been speaking, Mr. Ellis, it sounds like you're connected because he was mentioning that very thing today, and he's looking to address that.
Okay.
And for the record, even if you're not a grandparent, if you're there with kids, a bench is good.
Yes, sir.
You know, give your seat to a grandparent.
I'm for benches.
Yes, sir.
Thanks, Charlie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Stout. Anything else?
This weekend is a big weekend.
Blue Plum.
Blue Plum, but also I want to pitch for the train show out at the Mini Dome. The entire Mini Dome will be full of trains, historical trains from the train museum. So it's quite a showcase Friday and Saturday, as well as Blue Plum. So there's plenty to do for everybody who wants to come and from outside too.
We skipped public comment, so let me go ahead and get that in. That's my fault. I didn't bring it. So for the public comment, there's an item that's not on the agenda this evening that you'd like to address the commission in regards to. Please come forward now.
I wasn't planning this, but since whatever centennial this is.
150.
Called the Sasquatch.
Sasquatch.
It's really, I'm Jerry Reeves. It's really scary. It's real funny. Yesterday I was down in my basement, was going through trying to throw away some stuff. Found an old suitcase with the 100th anniversary logo sticker on this suitcase. I was obviously a child when that happened, but what it did bring to mind was, and this is probably a simple question, during that centennial there was a vault that was put on the property at Science Hill High School. I don't believe it's there now, or at least it is still there.
It has been found.
It has been found.
Yeah.
I asked
The
Mark to find
marker,
it.
is the marker gone? There was a
The
marker.
marker's been gone, Larry,
But the
since
vault is still
Yeah,
there.
that
I hate to
marker-
tell you, I was there when that vault was put in there, and I was just curious about it.
We actually had somebody inquire about that on a extremely regular basis, and it took us probably a month or 6 weeks using a variety of sources, but we have located it and marked it, so we can get to it now.
I could pretty well mark it. There's some interesting things in that vault that I can tell you right now from my memory, but I was just curious because when you brought up the centennial, the 150, yes, I was just curious about it.
Well, mark your calendar, Mr. Reeves.
I
We'll
hope
make
to
sure
be
that
there.
we take it up. Yeah.
We
I would
may
love
want
to
some
be.
things out of that suitcase if you've got some historical.
I should look in there and see. I was in the JCs and we did a lot at the time for that centennial. But I found that it was a logo on that suitcase. It was funny. I found it yesterday. So anyway, thank you.
Thank you. Anybody else? I'll close the public input. Mr. Fowler?
Congratulate all the Science Hill graduates from last weekend, including my daughter. It was a good ceremony, even though we moved it from Science Hill over to ETSU, the Mini Dome. I thought it went really well there. So they did a good job of converting that over.
They've been very accommodating over there. I think Daniel Boone had their graduation here. Commissioner Wise? Well, very good. Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Thank you. Thanks, Steve. Appreciate you.
All right. Good. See you, Mark.
Let's see here.
Janet?
Yes.
I would like to take this opportunity.
Take this opportunity.
Thank you. See if I want to be involved with these people.
Yes, really.